Okay, welcome to today's nutrition talk put on by the National Landing Fall into Fitness Challenge. The talk today is going to be building balanced meals. I am Meredith. I'm the co-owner of South Arlington Fitness and Nutrition, and I'm also a nutrition coach. So let's get right into it. Before I go to my next slide, why don't you just take a second and think about what your biggest nutrition obstacle is? All right, for today's agenda, what we will be going over is building balanced meals for the first 20-ish minutes, and then practice and questions for the final 10. Okay, let's just start on the idea of a balanced meal and what it is. A balanced meal has the macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fat. So 3 macronutrients. And then under the umbrella of carbohydrates, we're going to look for starchy carbohydrates and non-starchy carbohydrates. So technically, we're trying to find 4 different things to build a balanced meal, and 2 of them coming from carbohydrates. Now, why, you might ask, why spend time or energy focusing on these macronutrients, or building a balanced meal in general? Why shift focus there? So research actually supports that focusing on what to do versus what not to do can help us achieve our goals. So thinking in terms of maybe if you have cookies every once in a while or even every day, let's think wine or maybe some other form of alcohol. There's also a variety of donuts, kind of go through your list of things that you have maybe thought in the past are bad foods. And if you spend a lot of energy and time trying to restrict those, chances are you're not getting the nutrients and the energy and the fullness that can come from a balanced meal or having a more rounded diet. So spend time and energy focusing there versus on what to restrict. We believe will help you in the long run to pretty much achieving, a healthier state of being. All right, so I also like to tell clients that it just helps when we're trying to do something hard to focus on what makes us feel good psychologically, what makes us feel good emotionally, and what makes us feel good physically. And often we are a bit out of touch with the feeling that food gives us. So trying to go back to that, oh, I feel awful when, or I feel amazing when, or I feel like me or unclouded when, and trying to identify those before, during, and after eating. So building a balanced meal is probably also just, I think I mentioned, going to help us feel satisfied, but it's also going to give us sustained energy. That sounds like a winner, right? Sustained energy. How about feeling satisfied longer? It's going to help us grow. It's going to help us recover. It's also going to help with metabolic function. And this really holds true for any age group at any sort of stage of life. So how do we do this? Step 1, pick a protein. So what does protein do? Well, not to get too sciencey about it, it helps us build muscle and maintain muscle. It aids in recovery. It's going to help us feel full, stay full, feel fueled, feel satisfied. Sound familiar? All the things that the balanced plate contributes to. Now, if that's not enough, here are a list of foods to kind of pick from with regard to protein. And most of these are meat sources or animal sources. But there are also quite a few vegetarian sources or vegetable sources. The most common one would be beans. So let's just go there for a moment. If you're vegetarian or you tend to eat more of a plant-based diet, you have beans, chickpeas, tofu. Tofu might even be on my list here. Yeah, it is. There's a few other things as well, non-meat. Sprouted bread, sprouted grain bread, lentils, edamame, all excellent choices. I think when you decide to eat less animal protein and more vegetable protein or plant source protein, it becomes a little bit more tricky because you have to find, well, you tend to have to find a variety of different sources. So all of a sudden you're eating multiple sources of protein to accumulate the amount of protein that you would typically get in just one source. Let's say for the example of chicken breast, if you were going to have a plate of chicken or a meal with chicken, to supplement that, if you weren't going to have any meat, you might have to have 4 or 5 different things on your plate or a large quantity of, let's say, beans to compensate for the amount of protein. And while we're on the idea of amount, most people are going to benefit from having about 30% of their caloric intake coming from protein. And all too often, working with folks, we find that many of us are just not eating that much. It takes a little effort to cook that, prepare it, have it ready. And most people just are not getting that much, enough protein. So I would recommend here for people to take a look, at your current routine, your current day. Maybe yesterday is a good example. Take your current situation and ask yourself, where is protein maybe missing? Some people have an all carbohydrate breakfast, and that might be a great place to start to look to incorporate either some high protein yogurt or some eggs or, combination. Protein powder is also not the devil, which some people think. It's a great way to supplement if you can't get enough protein in your day and you want something fast and easy. I always recommend trying to eat more food, but when you just can't, because you're in a rush, protein shake is absolutely a great choice. Or a smoothie with protein. So I would just take a look at your current day and ask yourself, okay, where could I potentially add a little more protein? If you're getting protein in all your snacks and all your meals, great, good for you. You're probably good to go. I would just start to ask yourself a little bit about, is it enough? Do I feel satisfied? Am I feeling full? Am I feeling energized? And then we'll get to the rest of the macronutrients. You can kind of compare that to the others to see where you are. And maybe you do need to add some different macronutrients to support your energy and energy balance. So I always recommend that folks just take a look at what's really going on and see where they can make one tiny improvement and build on that. There's no need to overhaul whole weeks and whole days from 0 to 60. It just tends to not work very well that way. All right, so let's move on. Step 2. Step 1 was pick your protein. Step 2, choose your carbs. Okay. So unfortunately, this macronutrient gets a little bit of a bad rap. Why? I'm going to hypothesize that most of our processed foods out there that are kind of quick and easy and grab and go tend to be higher in carbohydrate, and that potentially because of that we've overconsumed carbohydrates or carbohydrates that are processed. So I like to tell my clients that carbohydrates actually are your body's natural preferred source of fuel. Your body prefers to run on glucose, which is made from the carbohydrates that you consume. And to kind of mess with that, you're going against the natural way of things. Not wrong, just something to consider. Take a second here and see if you can pick out the carbohydrates in this picture. So many of you might have said the potatoes, the sweet potatoes on the far right, bottom right here. Yes, that's correct. And most people would say that's the primary source in this meal. That's definitely the starchy carbohydrate. If you look at all those vegetables on the plate, I guess it's a salad, I'm not 100% sure. Those are all carbohydrates. Yeah, mostly non-starchy carbs. So I would venture to say there's probably even some carbohydrate in the sauce right here. I'm not sure what it is, but. So carbohydrates are everywhere. To severely restrict them is extremely hard. And so I would recommend just trying to make sure that you have some starchy carbs and some non-starchy carbs with every meal, if you can. Our body loves them. And if you kind of look across this list, man, just packed, they're nutrient dense. So we've got starchy carbs in the far left, on the far left. So we've got low glycemic, moderate glycemic, and high glycemic. And then on the far right, the volume carbohydrates, we've got non-starchy carbs. And I think you recall I said trying to pick at least one from each category to create your plate is going to help you with the balance. So I would also encourage you to kind of look at this list and go, what do you love? What do you really enjoy eating from this list? My most recent favorite this summer was peaches. I've never really gotten into them, but this summer, for some reason, peaches with a little bit of Greek yogurt and a little bit of peanut butter. I know, it sounds a little crazy, mixed in. So I would encourage you to look at what you love and then maybe pick one or two things that you're curious about, or you like when you're at a restaurant or you're out somewhere, but you don't know how to cook it, and investigate a little bit. No pressure to be a chef or to come up with an entirely new cooking skill, but maybe open the possibility for a little bit of curiosity and play and joy with food. I don't ever make things with pea pods. I think my girls, actually I have two young ones, any of them could barge in here at any minute. They might actually really find them interesting. These little peas that live inside of pods arrive on their plates. But I just encourage you to stay curious about food and trying to go out of your way to maybe investigate what you could fix or prepare for yourself that you haven't before. Okay. I think I mentioned with our protein that you want about 30% of your caloric intake to come from protein. With carbohydrates, we're looking at anywhere from 30 to 40%. And that's going to just vary from person to person. Step 3. Step 3, fat. Add a fat or not. We'll see. So contrary to popular belief, fat does not make you fat. What does fat do? It's going to help you feel satisfied and fuller longer. It's also going to bring in nutrients that really can't get into our bloodstream and go out to our cells any other way. So they need fat to support their journey in the body. So I would invite you to, my toddler is at the door now. Sweetie, I'm doing a little bit of work and I'll be out in. Okay, I'll open the door in 5 minutes, sweetie. Take a little break. So, yeah, here's our list of fats. This is not conclusive by any means, but here are a bunch of healthy fats to pick from. Again, I'd encourage you to pick one that you haven't played around with, cooked with, fixed anything with before. Maybe even just Google it and see, what do you do with walnut oil? What is it good for making cookies? Like, who knows? And go from there. Now, I will say that fat is a little more calorically dense. So it's got about 9 calories per gram, which is, I think, 4 or 5 calories higher than carbohydrates and protein per gram. So a little bit goes a long way in terms of the body's needs. If you're a bigger person, you probably need a little more fat. If you're a smaller person, you probably need a little bit less. But we do need fat in our diet. So look for ways to incorporate that in a healthy way. Again, it's going to help you feel satisfied and stay fuller longer. Okay, step 4, portion your plate. How many of you guys have heard of the plate method? I like it because it's kind of simple. We've got half the plate in non-starchy vegetables. So this is your non-starchy carbohydrate. You can go for some fruit over there too, but most of the fruit is going to be in the starchy category. So you've got a quarter of your plate in starch and a quarter of your plate in protein. And then you're just going to add a little bit of fat if you need to. So I don't know if you recall the protein slide, and you can go back, but I've got it sectioned off where you can kind of see the lean protein, the moderately fat laden protein, and then the fatty protein. And so just be aware when you're putting protein on your plate, if you are always choosing a more fatty version of protein, you probably don't need to add any fat to the dish. Or the plate, it just already has a lot of fat content in the meat, and it's just not, any extra would just be a little bit unnecessary. And again, these are guidelines. So you want to maybe start with one of these plates and then assess. You want to go, okay, am I still hungry? Was that enough? Do I feel full? How long did I feel full when I had that meal? Okay, next time, let me add a little bit more protein. Well, you know, I didn't really add any fat there. Let me make sure I get that. So going back and looking compared to your own notes, really, about what you need and how you can adjust this. If you look at this, chef's creation, and try to pick out the protein. Most of that's in the egg here. Carbohydrates. So you've got your non-starchy, this is probably like spinach or kale. It's like a dark leafy green. Zucchini. I believe this was in non-starchy, although it could be in starchy. I think this is non-starchy. Okay, look at your fat now. Where are you getting fat on this dish? Yep, avocado. And this looks like cheese, which is amazing. Everybody loves a little cheese unless you're lactose intolerant. I would just say that, you know, when you're adding cheese, add it for taste and texture and pleasure, but just be mindful of the content, because sometimes that can give you so much fat that you'll feel stuffed, maybe uncomfortable, and maybe that'll put you in a position where you've overconsumed calories. And if you don't want to do that, then it could lead down the path that you're not interested in going. Okay, let's pick this one apart. Find the protein. Trick question here. We have protein, it looks like in the form of raw fish, maybe tuna. And then we also have protein in the form of edamame. Now, if you are a meat fish eater, go ahead and count the meat as your protein and the edamame in your carbohydrates category. What else do we have for carbohydrates? Yeah, it looks like some cucumber, cabbage, edamame, carrot, and then here we are with the fat, the avocado again. And let's finally look at this plate. I think this is I picked this one because it's a pretty good example of like, your plate doesn't always have to be perfect. If you're making an effort to get a protein, a carbohydrate, and a healthy fat on your plate, most every meal, you're doing okay. So I want you guys to try to steer clear from the perfection trap and look for progress. So if I were just, after I ate this meal, and I felt maybe a little bit tired and maybe not as energized, I would potentially look for more non-starchy vegetables next time to add to the plate, and a starchy vegetable. So we're kind of missing the starchy. There might be a little bit of starch in what we've got going on here with this. It looks like chicken. I'm going to assume it's chicken, but it could be macaroni now that I'm looking at it, in which case then we would have a little bit of starch here. So again, progress over perfection. You're going to mix your food. It's going to, no one wants to eat just plain chicken breast, plain rice, plain broccoli all day, every day. Just try to make an effort to look at your plate and then look at how it makes you feel and whether or not it's working towards, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So I just want you guys to know that you can feel free to email me at any time, Meredith at CrossFit South Arlington. You saw that right. We were formerly CrossFit South Arlington. We do run CrossFit classes there. We still love the methodology, but we are currently calling ourselves South Arlington Fitness and Nutrition. So you can email me. And again, I didn't get into too much about myself, and I won't really, but I'll just say that I am not a medical doctor and I am not a registered dietitian. So if you have any medical needs nutritionally, I'm not the person to come to or go to. You can ask me and I'll probably refer you to someone else. I am a health habit coach. My background is in education and behavior analysis. I'm a former behavior analyst, and I love supporting people with mindset and nutrition and habits and goals, and just helping them get from point A to point B in their lives. So email me anytime. You've also got the gym at info@CrossFit South Arlington, and I've linked our Instagram, Facebook, and our website here. I look forward to our next talk, and we'll see you guys soon.